Giants fans should be really excited about their team heading into next year. With minicamp kicking off, we're already starting to see why. Of course, we know about the splash they made in the first round. You get two potential stars in Abdul and Jaxson. But don't forget about the veteran moves they made in the offseason, and I think that'll be what really sets them up for long-term success. But before we start, if you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe. My name's Tyler Carmona, I cover the NFL and college football for Sports Illustrated, and today we're going to take a look at the Giants' future. Starting with the quarterback situation, I'll admit, I thought getting Jaxson in the first round would have been a stretch if they were at number 3. But getting him later in the first round, it's not a bad move, and I think Minicamp from ESPN agrees with me.
The situation in particular that the Giants are in, where they have two quarterbacks who can start, veterans, and Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in the building, and also they don't have a ton of pressure to win now, different from the Steelers in that way. The fact that they got one of the two best players in the draft in Abdul, and then added a developmental quarterback later, process-wise, that makes sense to me. I have said I do not believe Jaxson should start in the NFL immediately, but I can see why they were enticed by his tools and his athleticism with the promise of developing him. They also didn't give up a ton to go up and get him. And I want to be clear, like I am skeptical of him as an NFL starter. So I'm not saying this was a home run pick. Oh, wow, I can't believe the Giants stole it. But from when you look at their draft as a whole, when you look at what they gave up, when you look at their timeline, all of those, to me, check boxes.
I think what Mina is saying, listen, and I know we come here to take these hard stances of it's right or it's wrong. Here's what I'm going to say about the Giants' first round. Their process was the correct process.
Yeah.
Their decision-making, their maneuvering was extremely competent. Whether you feel Jaxson is a first-round quarterback, Jaxson is a franchise quarterback, or Jaxson was the number 2 quarterback in this draft, that's up for opinion. But nobody did more work on the quarterbacks in this draft behind Cam Ward than the New York Giants did. Nobody pinpointed the one guy that they'd want as a developmental quarterback the way the Giants did.
Dart said if he could train with any quarterback, it'd be Jameis Winston.
They'd ask you about your story, and they would be like, okay, like, if you could train with anybody, past or present, who would it be? And everybody was saying Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, Joe Montana. Right. Well, they asked me that question, you know who I said? I said Jameis Winston. I said Jameis. I want to train with Jameis.
I'm always going to choose Jameis. I don't care what none of y'all say.
Bro, if you really pay attention to his workouts, though, he is, like, grinding. I feel like he would be, like, the best teammate. Because you hear everybody talk about him like he's super football like intelligent.
Yeah.
And I feel like he'd be like a really good guy.
When you look at Russ, I'll say this, I don't think he played that bad last year. He was efficient, he threw for 10 more touchdowns and interceptions, and he had a pretty solid completion percentage. Is he still a franchise guy? Probably not, but at this point in his career, he's a solid option. Then he moved to their pass rush. Abdul, who they got at number 3, and I don't need to tell you, the guy has all-pro potential. He had 12 sacks last year, but he's also more than a guy who just gets to the quarterback. He's also great against the run. He had almost 70 combined tackles last year, and he was a unanimous first-team All-American. You don't get an honor like that by just being a pass rush specialist. Then you look at Kayvon Thibodeau, another top 5 pick who's also under 25 years old, and last year he fought through some injuries, but in 2023, that was when he really flashed his potential. He had double-digit sacks, forced 3 fumbles, and there's also Brian Burns, who's a more established guy. He's made multiple Pro Bowls already, signed a big contract ahead of last season. He had career highs in tackles, and he had 8.5 sacks. Then you look at their secondary, that's an area where they definitely needed help. Javon Holland from the Dolphins, I love that signing. Last season, the Giants had the 6th worst coverage grade in the NFL, and I think Holland's going to help with that. He's a solid player who's been productive since he got in the league as a 2nd-round pick. He made the all-rookie team, and he's got a good mix of coverage instincts and run support, and that's what the Giants need. They also got Paulson Adebo, who was very serviceable for the Saints. He's only 25 years old. He's already started in 51 games at corner. And that kind of experience at that age is unheard of. And plus, you got a first-round pick in Deontay Banks, who's still developing, so I think having a veteran like Adebo on the other side will really help him. So I think with these two moves, the secondary is looking way better compared to last year. So to wrap things up, Giants fans, this team actually looks like they're headed in the right direction. And Minicamp wasn't the only ESPN analyst who liked what they did on draft day.
We go to the New York Giants. You know, again, this was going to be the Jaxson draft. Make no mistake about that. But overall, another team that landed a lot of good players. Started with Abdul, could be a 12 to 15 sack a year guy. But Darius Alexander, defensive lineman that's leader. I had him 39 on my big board. He went 65. And then you look at Marcus Bowe, hey, get back 100%. He was 74 on my board. And Cam Scatterbo, you talk about a guy who will bring attention and excitement with his versatility. He'll be a good weapon for whoever the quarterback is starting out the year and certainly down the road. They're hoping, guys, what's going to make or break this draft, this A- will be an A+, or it could be a C-, is going to be what happens with Jaxson Dart, and that will certainly impact, this quarterback room will impact Joe Shane, GM, and Brian Daboll, head coach, for their futures with the organization moving forward.
They hit a home run. I thought they did a fantastic job, especially with the value moving back into the first round with the Jaxson Dart trade. What do you make of that decision by this team?
Responsible spending was how I would describe what the Giants did over the weekend. We'll see what the result is. I do have some reservations about Jaxson Dart and whether he can become an above-average starter in the NFL. I had him 35th overall on the big board, Kev, so he went 10 spots ahead of that. Not a dramatic gap at quarterback, but still, if I thought this guy was surefire, he would have been 5th on the big board, not 35th on the big board. Mel talked about this on our first draft show earlier today, is that the Giants kind of hit players around the mark of where he had them, and a lot of cases where I had them on my overall big board as well.
Got a quarterback project in Jaxson Dart, but you also have 2 veteran quarterbacks, a pass rush that's just going to haunt offensive coordinators next season, and a secondary that's finally getting the help it needs, so this team could really be on the rise. So let me know in the comments, are the Giants actually ready to make a playoff push, or is it still going to take a while?